Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Bob. Your griot here to tell you a story. And don't believe a word I say, especially this show. I've been watching the internet now for about an hour and 25 minutes, and I started out with Dark Journalist. Go watch his show. I'm just going to pay you parts of it, but just go watch his show, Dark Journalist, right? He was talking about Atlantis and Bohemian Bay and Cuba. And so we have, why were we so interested in Cuba? And why are we still screwing with it, right? Little island, that's no real thing. If we actually, said, hey, we love you, Cuba, here, let's build some hotels. They could make money, we could make money, it'd all be good, right? I mean, we did that with Jamaica, we did that with St. Thomas, we did it with lots of those little islands down there, but not Cuba. And why not? Well, what's it because of we punishing everyone for Fidel Castro? No, Fidel Castro was one of our boys. He got educated at NYU and Columbia Law School, right? So he was right in there, right? He went in there for a reason. I mean, he went back to the island and was fermenting a little revolution against Batista, but Batista's 100 mobster and a few other things. And it wasn't working out too good. He came back to America for about 3 months and then went back, and bingo, within 5 months, he was president of Cuba. How come? And, we have, you know, our little base in Cuba, and we have stuff all around Cuba, right? We're involved in all those islands. Not only that, we have our own version of Area 51 underwater, right? Why is that? Because Atlantis is there. It still is. And the technology is there. We've been sweeping it up for the last 60 years since Edgar Casey was talking about it. So, like I said, go watch Dark Journalist. And it's a good show. Dark Journalist is has a lot of really good information, has a lot of good people as guests that come on regularly, like Joseph P. Farrell, Dr. Joseph P. Farrell, and good old Catherine Austin Fitz, and the beautifully Olivia, and the show is 95% amazing. Now he's got his undies in a bunch over Donnie, and about the girl, and Stepford Biden and all the rest. And, guys, I don't know why I'm the only guy who talks about how all these guys represent the same friggin' thing. They all represent the corporate fascist state. I am going to play you this. Do, 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 do.
Fascist groups, most of which were shown a generous tolerance by the police. As you all know, a coalition of neo-fascist and separatist groups headed by media tycoon Silvio Berlusconi won the 1994 elections in Italy. They don't get it that these guys are playing for keeps, that they are going after you, that they are not going to leave any little bit left for you.
That's me listening to radio.
In part two of Outlook, Ed Dwight is all set to become America's first black astronaut, but when his biggest supporter, JFK, is assassinated, that dream comes crashing down.
They don't get it that these guys are playing
This
for
is
keeps.
alternative
They
radio.
are going after you. That they are not going to leave any little bit left for you. There's only one thing
Michael Parenti, and this is Alternative Radio. I'm David Barsamian. This edition of AR features Michael Parenti on fascism, the false revolution. Fascism is being mentioned more and more in the context of US and European elections. It is a word that is bandied about often rather loosely. Orwell wrote that it is understood to be something not desirable, but it is a complex political and economic synergy that has racism, xenophobia, force, and nationalism as its animating matrix. It involves heavy doses of propaganda and media manipulation. Mussolini, in one of his more honest moments, said, "Fascism should be more properly called corporatism, since it is the merger of state and corporate power." For Americans, it is universally associated with despotic regimes in other countries. It can't happen here, right? Huey Long, the self-styled populist governor of Louisiana, once warned, "If fascism ever comes to America, it will come wrapped in an American flag." To talk about fascism is Michael Parenti. He's a brilliant and articulate orator and independent political analyst, and the author of many books, including Democracy for the Few, Against Empire, and The Assassination of Julius Caesar, which was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. This classic from the AR archives was recorded in Berkeley, California in 1995. And now, Michael Parenti.
I want to look at some of the neglected attributes of fascism and its relevance for what's happening today. Before World War I, Benito Mussolini was a socialist. But many of his socialist comrades thought he was less interested in advancing the cause of socialism than in advancing himself. And sure enough, the minute that the wealthy classes in Italy offered him financial support and the promise of power, he didn't hesitate to switch sides. We know about people who switch sides, don't we? And with the huge sums he got from wealthy interests, Mussolini was able to project himself onto the national scene as the acknowledged leader of I Fasci di Combattimento. It was called a movement composed of ex-army officers and various other toughs who were used as a kind of anti-labor militia. They specialized in attacking unions, peasant farm cooperatives, socialists, communists, and anarchists. After World War I, Italy's parliamentary government faced a post-war recession. To maintain profit levels, the large industrialists and big landowners would have to slash wages and raise prices. The state, in turn, would have to provide the big owners with massive subsidies and tax exemptions. To finance this corporate welfareism, the populace would have to be taxed more heavily, and social welfare expenditures would have to be drastically cut. Does all of this sound familiar?
So he goes on. So go look up. Oh, hey there, 09. Greek Bible. Yep. So, really, if you want to study the Bible, you got to study in Greek, right? Because that's what everybody was writing back then, not Hebrew. Nobody, the Jews didn't even know Hebrew, right? They, at least the written part of it, and especially most of it, because when they went into the temple, they only got the Torah. That was the public, the Tabla and the occult book. Starts with a C. So Fire Drake, here it is. What do you think of these times? You're kind of aware. What parallels can you bring, right, to the subject matter?
Coffee?
I'm good. just stretching. Ah. Yep. Corruption being turned on itself. It's really going to happen. I mean, it's happening right in front of our eyes. And what's sad is how the general public is going along with it. They think they're part of, they just cheat and lie enough. I mean, that's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not one of the movers and shakers of the higher end of the pyramid. No, he's not even a cheeky monkey. It's not sad. You're right. It's not sad. It's, poetic justice, I guess, is the closest thing to it. The thing that's sad is the innocent people, right? The only thing I can tell them is that it's not that important. Your material self, not that important. And I've suffered and been around suffering my whole life. And I was very blessed to be shown that that kind of suffering is a gift if you can learn something from it as they choose it. This is true. We all choose what we get. So when I absorbed, so here's a good book. This is 1988. No, 86. And here's the school that I bought from Inga and that I sold to John Boy. It's a beautiful place. It's too bad he can't, appreciate it. So he's choosing to see this place as I chose it as a doorway, right? He sees it as a prison. Here are my parents. My dad, here he is at 95. And, he's not trying to look cool. That's just how he kind of looks, the colonel. He's always the colonel. My mom, the mixture. Look at those eyes. She's looking like straight at you guys, not looking at me. She's looking through the lens at you. She knows it's a time machine. She knows I'm going to be showing you this picture. She's saying, you guys better be careful. Here's my dad, us getting thrown out of Walmarts because we were having too much fun. And here's my mother used to really make my poor sister suffer all the time. Here's my sister with my dad, and they're at the courthouse. And she had just gotten the keys of the kingdom. My dad made her, power of attorney. Here's the smartest woman in the world, my sweetie Christine Barton. Here we are in front of the Shoreham Power Plant. This is every weekend. We had the Long Island Life community in front of the power plant. Here we are in the United Nations. Here's Clarence. Clarence is one of the higher end monkey mucks of the United Nations. He's a king in Africa, or was. I don't know what he's doing now. This is 1986-ish. Here is Preston Nichols' butt. And here he is, amplifier that he's made, a scalar amplifier. So when he plays music, like a 78 record, you don't hear the clicks, the buzzes, or anything. You hear the spirit of the artist. Here we are, a room of Nobel laureates working out cold fusion, right? And it's not the little experiment that cold fusion. If you go look up the last nuclear tests the United States had, and we tested after Russia blew up its big, behemoth hydrogen bomb, we detonated a number of hydrogen bombs that didn't use an atomic bomb as the precursor, as the primary, to ignite the deuterium. We used a cathode ray tube, right? And who was in on that? Well, at Lawrence Livermore was you go look up a guy, Dr. Knuckles. You can't miss this guy, Knuckles, Dr. Knuckles. And he perfected, along with the work that the guy who invented television, um, starts with an F, it'll pop into my mind. Anesthesia, yes. Reread, Ringing, Cedars, yes, exactly. Those books by Anastasia are great books, right? And have Fire Drake, have you noticed how they've been reprinted and they're not quite the same? I mean, the Ringing Cedar series are still the same, but the other ones that come afterwards are good. But they kind of miss that depth that she had in those first 4 books, right? Anastasia, yeah. So Christine, she invented computer graphics. That little lamp that's Pixar's logo, that was her PhD thesis. Here's me at 40, not doing that bad at 40. Here's me 40 years later, 40. And I could do this. I was the only person who could do this for Christine. She never smiled for anybody else, except Jack. We found this dog run over by the side of the road. And she's not a dog girl, but she said, stop. We got out, walked over, and Jack wanted to bite anybody who was going to, he was petrified and he couldn't move. And she went over and just petted his head. And then I picked him up and we brought him back to my house and I nursed him back to health. So Jack was our dog, but he loved her. And she was the first person that he let his guard down. I mean, he loved me too, but that's because I was a good dog. Christine was Jack's mistress, He growled at everybody but us. And he would stay in our bedroom even when we were fooling around. And we're out on my beach, right? This is my beach on the Atlantic in Long Island, near just on the other side of East Hampton, right? Near this was what's it called? I forgot the name of the little town. And here we are with the art gang of the 80s in my burned out building. And this was a little gathering I had for the NEA. And these were, everyone who had a rose was someone connected to the NEA. Right? That was my special little thing. I gave them all a rose. This girl was a painter and a poet from Sweden. That was her mom to come over and visit. And, she's in one of our burned out buildings. Her mom was pretty bourgeois. But her mom was cool about it, So there's the burnt out, building. And that's a life to be had. I could, you have to live your life in love's co-creation. And it's no matter what it is, I learned that very young between being born and 11. I was sick. I was always dying, And I kind of realized, when I come back from being dead, going, oh, I'm alive. Hey, this is good. On to the next thing, right? And that's why I constantly did stuff in this manner. Right? Here's a theater I had in the Lower East Side. That's a painting I did, and this stuff is my artwork, right? And I was a big. I could like this painting on this wall. I did in less than an hour, right? And it was a theater, right? So when the police saw me doing it, they knew me, so they didn't do anything about it. Because, but this is what changes communities: art, right? Here's us breaking in using the Homestead Act of 1876, breaking into an abandoned building that no one owned except the state. So we took it over, right? And how we got to own the buildings is I was a master electrician. So I had a really nice house too. I lived in a place called West Bath. I was given this by the political structure, and it was really nice. It was an old phone building that was made into lofts, and this was a loft. And there's Suzanne, my partner, and one of my partners in crime in doing art for the people. And we would, I was doing just stuff, and I wasn't a tagger or a gang leader. No, I was doing art, but for the people, right? And here's the Iroquois Nation's land in upstate New York near Ithaca. And we did the Ithaca Gathering on it. In New York, you couldn't do a gathering because there were no national forests. But I had been busily helping the Iroquois Nation settle a deal on their properties with the federal government. And Grandfather David, when he said, I hear you're trying to get these rainbow guys to have a gathering here, and you got no place to do it. So he drove, this is the first day we go look at the property. He says, here, this is, we have about 100,000 acres over here, and this is about 300 acres. That's, right by the county road. There's no road to it. But you can, this is where we farm and where we put our through. And so why don't you guys do a gathering there? Totally legal. We own the property. The state can't say anything. Rainbow's ever had. So this girl was, she was up there with Hawkins. And this girl wasn't quite Christine, but she was a smart girl. She was doing the same kind of things I was doing, but she was turning them into algorithms. I was looking at the relationships between human beings and social manifestations, psychosocial, cultural, forensic anthropology, and she was working out algorithms, how to crunch the numbers. So we were quite the team. We were put together. So she was, and she really, these girls loved me because I was never like, thinking I was superior to them. Here's another, this other girl's twin sister. This girl's twin sister. There she is. And we were at this rainbow gathering, and we go camp in Kitty Village because these girls never had anything to do with kids, and so I just gave them 100% having something to do with kids, right? This girl, she had no idea what to do, but she's just having the time of her life because she's an astrophysicist. She's never done this before. This kid is just just loves her, right? See, I learned how to do selfies before selfies. This is 1990. This picture was taken. This is Ireland. Last time I was in Ireland. And no, this is the time before the last time. Last time I was in Ireland was 05. This was 90 something. It's on the East Coast. Here is Syracuse, New York. This is where I would go once a month with Grandfather David and negotiate with the federal government over the Iroquois settlement. And when I would go there, because the governor would come to these meetings, I would also have meetings about nuclear energy and power. So again, here's Suzanne, and here we are doing art. This is in Port Authority Bus Terminal, and we were going to do an art show in that place, and we were just going to go in and do it. But we put posters saying, in about a week and a half, we're going to have an art show here. And we gave all the authorities, heads up. I mean, we actually talked to them, said, hey, we're going to do this. How do you want it done? You can't tell us not to do it, but we're going to do it in the most respectful authority. Same thing with this. This is the Williamsburg Bridge pedestrian walkway, which is an amazing, gigantic space. And no one ever used it. They didn't even walk across the bridge on it. And we did a gigantic art show on it. Here is Long Island Life Community. We made a total solar house here. We had a whole bunch of solar technology. Here's an NRC hearing that was forced to be had because I made a video and put it on New York Public cable TV station on our show Potato Wolf. But instead of just funny stuff, we also did serious stuff. So I made a film using my mother as the heroine of the protagonist of a tour through the Long Island Lighting Company nuclear power plant that was being built. And they broke every rule in the book. And my mom didn't know anything about it. She just, this looks like a mess. And, why? I can't believe that. I know nothing about this, but what is this? And here we are. We put up our own fence. So because a rich person bought us the property right next to the plant so we could have our Long Island Life community, right? And we didn't go big or anything. We just did it. Here's the boneyards out there in Nevada. These are wild. I'm an airplane freak. My dad being in the Air Force, I'm a real airplane freak. So this is a good example. See this guy here? This guy had a Pulitzer Prize and a Nobel Prize for poetry and literature, right? And then crack got a hold of him. And he was just street. I saw him. I just kind of gathered him up and put him in one of our, and he just couldn't get off of that crack. So this is Tortola, which is near Bimini, and talk to people about it. I lived there for many years. I had a girlfriend who was a pirate. Here we are doing, I did street theater. My buddy David, we would do plays in the street. Here's my godson. He tried really hard, but he never stopped being this. In his 40s now, and as you say, he actually chose, which way he was going to go. So I could have, been a rich guy. I mean, I was a rich guy a number of times. I kept giving it up, not giving it up, but just giving it away. And then I'd make more money. Well, this was really good. This was the North Carolina Rainbow Gathering. That's sweet Melissa. She's a real saint. It's a North Carolina Supreme Court judge. And everybody and his brother tried to get thrown off this. This was in what national forest, named after a rich woman. Anyway, this court judge came out to see what we were doing, and he, it was all up to him whether we were going to go to jail or. And he basically, and it was so sweet. Look, he brought us food. He brought us food. 20,000 people, and he brought us food. Here's the powers that be. Here's the FBI guy, right? You could tell he's the FBI guy. This guy is like CIA guy. These two guys on this side over here are state officials. So, but he could kill you in 20 different ways. And there's Garrick trying to talk Garrick to this guy, right? Really? What else? So I never try to fight the. Oh, here we go. This is why we got to keep 50 buildings. I put legal electricity in all the buildings. Everyone who had an apartment in our buildings had an electric bill. Electric bill is the gold standard of you live there, right? So that's there's always a way. Most people get stuck in trying to have the outcome they think they want. They don't understand what's going on. They think they're in control. No. Unless you're serving love's co-creation. If you serve in love's co-creation, it all works out. That's what I do all the time. I learned that, since I was born. And I never fought. I just navigated. I was fluid. Right? They choose Bob. Yeah. Jane. Fire Drake. You reading? Yes. Anastasia. Yep. Lana. And I'm sorry, I can't make international calls anymore. But you gotta get a hold of me at the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. It's good to see you, sweetheart. Lana's one of the old cadre. So what you been doing with yourself? I haven't heard from you in a while. She is truly a warrior of the spirit, this lady here. And whenever we would have phone calls, we talk for hours. And it was really interesting. Oh, I don't know, a few years ago when I was living with John, which was like a son now. Oh, isn't that great? I'm going to be your son's godfather from way over here. I'm going to start sending him. He's 2 months old. Call him Leo. Oh, I love. Congrats, Lana. Congrats. That is so awesome. And you're in a really good. Sweden is a really good place. They'll take care of you and Leo. Well, that's great. Leo is going to be a great opportunity for you, sweetheart, in that you've always been the warrior, but you've had no idea what to be the warrior about. Now you can be the warrior of love. We're always picking these chumpy dudes. I hope he's got a good, at least genetic ness from the male part of the nomenclature. But congrats, sweetheart. Yep. So you needed this. Right? So you have to rejigger your whole life. And you no longer have to, be that person who is doing all this stuff for people who didn't deserve it. Now you have father's Italian, Sicilian. Ooh la la. Did I? However it's spelled. My dad was Sicilian too, so I'm part Sicilian, right? But I'm more the Irish German. All my brothers and sisters, dark hair, dark eyes, dark skin, Me, white boy, blue eyes, brown hair. Okay. He wasn't any of your boyfriends that I spoke to, right? He's not that same guy who was always just playing video games, right? This guy's going to be a dad to Leo, right? He's going to be involved. Best of both worlds. Okay, great. See, you were just waiting for the best of both worlds, you know. So you're now part of you, Leo, and Dr. Sicilian there. Um, as, so now you can be a stay-at-home mom, right? You can put all your juice into Leo, and he looks like Mario from Nintendo. It sounds the best to me. I look like I wish I looked. No, I don't. I'm happy with how I look. But yes, without the mustache, right? Okay. I only have a beard because I'm lazy. Beard instead. Okay. And the other thing about beard is it hides the fact I have no teeth. Right? If I didn't have this covering my mouth, people could see. You net, it looks kind of like teeth. It does look like teeth, but it's really my gums. Anyway, it's a great thing that you had Leo. How was your birth experience? Did you slide right through? Is that a picture of you and Leo there? Phew. I know. You've been through so much other stuff that probably was like icing on a cake. Right? Yep. I know. But, liars are, I mean, truth and lying, it's very easy to spot one way or the other. And the other thing, there's no sense in lying. Meaning, when I was 6, the dudes I ran with in the streets, our crew, all those guys lied, cheat, and steal, like just like their dads. And they weren't, they were all white people, right? Because I had my own black and my own Hispanic crews. I had 3 crews at 6, right? And I basically was a blue baby, right? So I kind of remember that. And my doctor, who took care of me from birth to when I was about 12, Dr. Black, she always told me about everything. So I knew medicine by the time I was, well, not all of medicine, but a lot about it. Anyway, let's see. Both books. Yep. I'm a mutt. That's what I am. And mutts are the best. I was talking to somebody about mutts, and we both agreed that they were the best. Italians, best autocratics, yeah, because they did, Benito, he did it with flair. And he invented the word fascist. That was his PhD thesis, right? In 1905 or something, right? And he was a socialist in 1905, right? And he was trying to find a way to marry socialism and the corporate structure. And fascism is what he came up with. So have they decided what's for dinner? Have they decided what's for dinner?
They might change it. I don't know.
Did you ever have one of those Cuban sandwiches?
I'm not.
Oh, you should try it. I had one last night. It was, and I'm kind of a fan of the Cuban sandwich.
Yeah.
It's not quite traditional, but it's yum.
We have chicken katsup made. You have ribeye and hamburger steak.
Oh,
You have prime rib steak sub.
that's good. Oh, that sounds good. The chicken sounds good. Ribeye. I don't know if I can hang here until 4. I think it might be a smoked chicken Philly. You have that for lunch, don't you?
The smoked chicken Philly?
Yeah.
I'll have to look on our other menu.
Yeah. Okay.
But I feel like sometimes we do.
Yeah.
This may change though, so this is probably not 100% certain.
So have you had their prime rib?
Me? No. I've not. I've had their shrimp tacos. It's really good.
Yeah. When they had salmon, did you have that salmon when they had salmon?
No, I missed it. I wish I did though.
Yeah, that was good. Yes. Okay, well, if I'm here, I'm going to try that pesto there.
Try to cut stuff.
Yeah. What time is it? So let's see what time
It's
it
right
is.
after work.
Yeah,
In
and
about a few hours.
I have, yes, I have a few.
You got 5 minutes.
Well, this place is out in the middle of nowhere, Hollerville, and it's like almost a 3-star restaurant. They're turning all this beautiful nature into glamping sites, RV sites, and places where people get married, right? And so there's one place that people get married. They have a big hall and cabins for people to stay at, and they have their meals. They had no real good cooking place. So they took a gas station where I'm in right now and made a really good catering restaurant. So they decided they had a room that I'm sitting in. We'll have food for the holler folk. And they're a really good dinner for $9. You can't beat it. So Lana's going up. So stay in touch, Lana. Remember, the dude awake 42 at Gmail. I can't seem to get my what's his name? WhatsApp. It's like the same thing with other than the stuff I use to talk to you guys. The digital world doesn't want me to have like a PayPal or any of that stuff, which is fine by me. I don't care. I do miss our phone calls, but we can still communicate. The dude awake 42 at Gmail. That still works. My email still works, and my YouTube still works. So guys, there's Lana. She was one of the original cadre, and a little story about her. Like years ago, like 5 years ago, easy. I was still at John's, and it was a winter time, and John was being his more nuttier, and it was amazing because my Wi-Fi, my WhatsApp, we walked. So she was on the show, and I had her on the phone. And I put on speakerphone, and John came down, and he was like, "Arr!" and Lana ate his lunch. She said, "I'm gonna come there and kill you." Not kill you, but beat you up. I can take you apart. And poor John got so freaked out. He ran up and stayed in his little bedroom for about a week. But Lana was great. You don't say that to my. She was very protective of me. So Lana's going to be a great mom. If she could be that protective of me, who doesn't need to be protected from across the ocean, she's going to be. We need more moms like Lana. Yep. So, so that's great. Lana jumped in. That's good. And she's got little Leo. That's great. And a good Sicilian. Good Sicilian, you can't beat them. As long as they have it in perspective, because they can lose their shit sometimes. Being a Sicilian, I know. I'm more the German, more the Irish. So I'm like, you know, I'm always measuring everything. My first wife called me a compassionate computer, you know, so yes. And I've been very well trained in the arts of martial. And the number one art of martial is not to fight, but to navigate, right? So, and that's what, you know, diplomacy is. You know, I'm schooled in the school of diplomacy, and diplomacy is war. It's just you're not using guns, you know. So, so here we are. Oh, look at that! 45 minutes and 45 seconds. And anything else anybody wants to say? We're having a nice chat here. So, oh, and Lana's, of all the people I know, she is probably the best to be a mom. So, congratulations, Lana and family. I hope Lana's mom is happy. That should be something that you can be happy about. And Lana, you got grandma to take care of Leo, so that's good. All is right with the world. If Lana can have a baby named Leo, all is right with the world, right? Okay. So what else can I say? So nothing's changed. You know, the world is what it's always been. You have the choice. As Lana says, you choose the world you have. Oh, too bad the phone doesn't work. I'll call Johnny Boy and see what it is. And maybe I'll do a show later this afternoon. Stuff. Is there anything interesting on the old internet here?
But the government wasn't completely free to apply these harsh measures because many Italian workers and peasants had their own unions and fairly strong political organizations with demonstrations, strikes, boycotts, factory takeovers, the forcible occupation of farmlands, and all these things. They won some substantial concessions in wages, in work conditions, and in the right to organize. So the workers and peasants were able to mount a defense of their standard of living. To roll back that standard of living and to get the economic changes that the plutocrats and tycoons wanted, the ruling interests had to abolish the democratic rights that helped workers and peasants defend that standard. So the solution was to smash their organizations and their political liberties. In 1922, the Federazione Industriale, the leaders of industry, along with top bankers and agribusiness associations, met with Mussolini to plan the March on Rome, contributing 20 million lira to the so-called fascist revolution. Within 2 years after seizing state power, Mussolini had shut down all opposition newspapers and crushed the socialist, liberal, Catholic, Democratic, and Republican parties, which together had commanded about 80% of the vote. The fascists were never a majority in Italy. Opposition leaders, union leaders, and others were beaten, exiled, or murdered. The Italian Communist Party endured the severest repression of all. In Germany, there was a very similar pattern of complicity between fascists and capitalists. German workers and farm laborers had won the 8-hour day, unemployment insurance, the right to unionize. They had built very strong political organizations also, but heavy industry and big finance were in a state of nearly total collapse. Business wanted to cut wages, tax cuts, and massive state subsidies. During the 1920s, the Nazi stormtroopers were subsidized by business and were used to terrorize workers and farm laborers. But by 1930, a decision was made by the German tycoons, and that decision, Weimar Republic no longer served their needs and was too accommodating to the working class and to the Social Democrats. They greatly increased their subsidies to Hitler. and propelling the Nazi Party onto the national stage. In fact, Hitler himself boasted of it, the immense amount of campaign material we got. 1,000 automobiles with loudspeakers. Each of them could make 100 appearances, so 100,000 appearances, saturating every town and village in the cities of Germany, getting out this propaganda, money to build their party organization, their youth groups, and their paramilitary forces. You can read book after book about fascism and Nazism and find almost nothing said about the economic policies of these regimes, of the things I just told you about now. They're just not in books. There's also a vast literature on who supported the Nazis. Who supported them? Well, there were some rich tycoons, but some of them were against them. And some workers voted for them and some against them. It's hard to say, blah, 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 blah stuff. Very little is ever written about who the Nazis supported when they came in, who the fascists supported when they came in, because that would be much more revealing, you see. And this is in keeping with the tendency of mainstream scholarship to avoid the entire subject of capitalism whenever something unfavorable might be said about it. Who did Mussolini and Hitler support once they seized state power? In both countries, a strikingly similar agenda was pursued. Labor unions and strikes were outlawed. Union property and publications were confiscated. Farm cooperatives were handed over to rich private owners. Big agribusiness farming was heavily subsidized. In Italy, child labor was reintroduced. In both Germany and Italy, the already modest wages of the workers were cut drastically. In Germany, from 25 to 40% cuts. In Italy, 50% wages cut. These were already rather modest wages as it was. In both countries, minimum wage laws, overtime pay, and factory safety regulations were abolished or turned into dead letters. Taxes were increased for the general populace, but lowered or eliminated for the rich and big business.
So this is what's happening here, right? And it's happening whether the girl does it or Donnie does it, right? Just different flavor. And you will see Donnie, and the only difference whether Donnie gets it or the girl gets it is on what color speed, meaning whether we can feel comfortable with it. We probably will get Cammy, so we can be feeling comfortable with the fact that we're living in a fascist state. And if Donnie gets it, it's like full speed ahead, right? And damn the torpedoes, right? And because they feel real like they're just hanging on by their fingernails, because we are in a time of change. And this is very similar to what it was like between 1897 and 1910. That was that last period that the United States had to make a real interesting jump into the future. And so that's where we're at, kids. We're at that right where our little toes are right on the edge of the cliff, and whether we can walk through. You know, Spielberg is a very interesting filmmaker. All his films capture a moment that makes, whether it's, a movie about the Nazi camps, Schindler's List, or Close Encounters, or any of the above. How's your day doing, bud?
It's been so good so far, man.
I was surprised by that rain this morning. I was going to get up and mow my lawn and do a few outdoor chores, and it was raining. I wasn't ready for that. That's why I came for breakfast. I might stay for dinner. Guess who's coming to dinner? So anyway, guys, there it is, 5444. So I'm going to say goodbye. You mull this over. I'll be back in, a few hours, around 4 or somewhere around there. Okay? Okay. And stream. Maybe in 2 hours.